If you've been at one of the local malls this month, there's a chance you've seen members of the Toronto Fire Service's Black Staff Network. The group is meant to be
a way for those staff to connect, to speak about their experiences with one another, to talk about ways to be seen, not within just Toronto Fire Services, but within the local communities.
Ricky Brooks heads up recruiting at Toronto Fire and is part of the network. It formed in late 2023. Engagement with residents is a priority. Brooks shares something they keep hearing.
We didn't even know that there were black firefighters.
It's a concerning sentiment that isn't isolated.
People will approach me and say, "How did you get the job? I didn't even know you can become a paramedic."
Toronto Paramedic Superintendent Kevin Sam recalling his early days on the front lines. Now in management.
From when I started, the only thing I saw was maybe not as much representation, but that has grown exponentially. I did have a comment that, now that I see Kevin can do it, maybe I can do it too.
When it comes to understanding the diverse makeup of our emergency services, it's hard to get a clear picture. Members are asked to self-identify, but it's not required. Looking at the most recent Toronto Fire and Paramedics recruit classes, of those who answered, both sets of classes reported nearly 50% being racialized or part of an equity-seeking group. At the Toronto Police Service, recruiter and Constable Cedron Dean says,
our service is up to 50% racially diverse, up from 30% in pre-2020. Our uniform senior leadership is now 20% racially diverse, up from 16% pre-2018.
I'm not sure that we have a very, very good representation in many areas in our society, and emergency services would be one of them.
York University professor Carl James says it's particularly important for first responders to be reflective of the communities they serve.
Emergency services are coming at a time when people are most vulnerable. And hence, the more that you can represent the people whom you're trying to work with or get to respond to you, would be good to have somebody who looks like them, somebody who understands not only their language, but also they can identify with, and who can understand the nuances. That might be very much part of how they're responding.
Bravery, confidence, and calmness. These are common characteristics needed for all first responders. But talk to those on the front lines, they say personnel with diverse backgrounds can sometimes be difference makers.
Maybe it's a member of the public who might not speak English fluently or might have a language barrier. That diversity that we have in the fire service to overcome those barriers is really important.
You go to see the ambulance, you go into the hospitals, you will see the difference in healthcare perspectives.
With that benefit, we asked representatives of Toronto's emergency services this question. What is the service doing to make sure that it is more representative of the city it serves?
There is specific legislative requirements that need to be completed for candidates to be eligible for employment.
Deneen Robinson with Toronto Paramedics says the service is working directly with schools to do mentorship programs. They also go to special events like Toronto Newcomers Day to promote careers in paramedicine. Robinson says they're looking at ways to reduce certification and hiring barriers.
Making sure that our staff who are in the recruitment portfolio are doing training through the city on bias and things like that, making sure that we have representation on all of our hiring panels, so trying to reduce those barriers there.
At Toronto Police, Constable Cedron Dean says the biggest systemic misconception he hears from prospective applicants is
with regards to cost. In reality, there is no barrier. There is no cost for it at all.
Dean says another issue is doing tests to proceed with the application process.
Having identified that the policing, of course, is a male-dominated industry, we've elected to create a prep testing session exclusively for women.
With firefighting, certifications and education for frontline firefighters can be costly. There aren't direct financial supports available. Ricky Brooks also adds they're trying to promote careers in the 911 Center, the Fire Inspections Office, and as fleet mechanics.
A lot of what we're doing now is speaking to communities to understand what those barriers are, and then as well speaking to community partners.
Meanwhile, Professor Carl James says he hopes all organizations will pay attention and act on feedback.
You have to look at why haven't people been coming forth before you're going out to, because obviously there are people who are always looking for jobs. Why might they not have listed your organization as a place that they're going to look at and work?
For more on this story and to learn more about the recruitment efforts, head to citynews.ca. In Toronto, Nick Westoll, City News.